Hello, it's Shelby, and you know one thing I clearly find very important is a good night's sleep. One night with Quince's European linen, and I finally understood the hype. The difference was immediate. They're light, breathable, super soft. They're woven from 100% European flax linen. They have an heirloom quality that gets softer with each wash. And that also goes for their ultra plush duvets, quilts, pillows, and shams. Quince has everything you need to level up your bed. The best part, like Quince's clothing, their bedding is half the cost of similar brands. By partnering with top artisans, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And my absolute favorite part about Quince is that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. You deserve to sleep and to dream in high-quality sheets, just like me. I ordered the European linen sheet set specifically because I'm such a hot sleeper, so not only are the sheets beautiful, they're great for warmer weather. Let your bed match the season with cool, relaxed bedding from Quince. Go to quince.com/SYTS for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/SYTS to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/SYTS. Welcome to Scare You to Sleep. I'm your host, Shelby Novak, and I'm here to read to you a variety of true, terrifying stories sent in by your fellow listeners. I hope you're doing well this week. I hope you're ready to dive into this eclectic bunch of tales I have for you tonight. Let's begin with a story from Tracy, who is a beloved author who has been featured on this show. You should definitely check out her book, Children of the Tithe. It's fantastic, very scary. I actually read the first chapter or two chapters of it on this show a couple years back, and Tracy has a story for us about fairies. Hi, Shelby. Listening to episode 372, True Horror, and since you asked, I have a true fairy story for you. So a few years back, a group of friends and I went on a road trip around Scotland. It was amazing. Scotland is beautiful. I highly recommend it. In one of the hostels we stayed at, I think it was in Aberdeen, I found a tourist map that had been left behind, which, as well as locating lots of the usual tourist spots, also gave the locations of old stone circle and Pictish monuments. I'm a spiritual person, and I've always had a keen interest in the Fae folk and the ancient Celts, so I begged my companions to add some of these monuments to our journey. They agreed, and so we chose a few that were close to our planned route, and the next morning we headed out early. We were traveling from Aberdeen to our next stop in Inverness, and we picked 2 stone circles to visit on the way. The first one was disappointing. It was a lovely, large, and very intact stone circle, but it was filled with tourists and even had an ice cream van parked on the road outside. Not exactly what I was hoping for, and yes, I know I was a tourist myself, so I shouldn't complain, but it kind of ruined the vibe. The second stone circle was something else entirely. We got to the location and found a small car park with apparently nothing around it. A bit confused, we parked up and looked around and decided to follow a wide dirt track that led away over the hill. It turned out we picked correctly, as once we were at the top of the hill, we found a sign pointing us along a narrow footpath leading from the dirt track. I don't remember what the circle was called or where exactly it was, which, in hindsight, probably isn't a coincidence. We made our way along the footpath, and pretty soon, the sounds of the road faded away behind us, leaving us hearing only the sounds of the birds and the wind and the trees. It was a short but lovely walk, and at the end of the path, it opened up into a small clearing, in the middle of which was the stone circle we were looking for. It was gorgeous, a smaller circle than the last one, but the stones were soft gray, smooth and clean with no moss, no dirt, hardly a chip or a scratch on them. It was set on a risen mound of earth that was hemmed by a low wall constructed of smaller stones, like they had a lot of around fields up there in Scotland. The grass on this mound was short, thick, and vibrantly green, much greener than the grass around it, which was yellowing a little, since we were in the middle of a very hot summer. And at the head of the circle, if a circle can have a head, was a set of 3 stones forming an arch, like the formations at Stonehenge, only lower and tipped a little off to one side, with a long, flat stone like an altar in front of it. And best of all, no one else was there. We were all delighted, and I was the first to jump up onto the mound to explore. Before I did, I felt a need to remove my shoes and socks, as if going into someone's house. I did it without really questioning it, and my companions all did the same, all except my partner, who decided to stay outside the circle and have a smoke. He said he had a weird feeling and would rather stay outside to keep an eye on our shoes. That was fine. The circle was small enough that we wouldn't even lose sight of him. So we spent a while looking around the circle, admiring the stones, calling to each other if we found something interesting. I was amazed by how thick and soft the grass felt under my bare feet. There were perfect little white daisies dotted about the grass. The stones glittered slightly in the sun, like granite. The altar stone had a pleasantly smooth, slightly concave surface, like it had been well used. It was lovely there, and I felt a great sense of peace and happiness. I looked through the stone arch and noticed how shadowy the little narrow path was beneath those stones. It made the field beyond look almost like it was in a different world. One by one, we ended up sitting in the middle of the circle, relaxing in the sunshine. We chatted for a while and called my partner to join us, but he still declined. At one point, I glanced back at the arch and was sure I saw a woman in white pass by it on the other side, but nobody else saw her, and she didn't reappear beyond the stone circle, like a passerby would have if they were just following the path past us. I wondered at this, but it could have easily been my imagination, and I was getting sleepy, so I didn't dwell on it. As it happened, we were all getting sleepy. I looked back to see that all my friends were now lying on their backs or sides in the grass. Someone spoke up. "I'm so tired all of a sudden. I could just take a nap right here." And everyone agreed. Dimly, alarm bells rang in my mind. I knew enough about fairy folklore to be wary of this, and when I looked over at my partner, he was looking at us with a very concerned expression on his face. I said to my friends, "Guys, this is a bit weird. I think we should go back to the car." Most of my friends are, let's say, open-minded, and maybe my voice told them that something was wrong. So thankfully, I didn't have to try hard to convince them. We pulled ourselves to our feet with no small amount of effort and stumbled out of the circle. As soon as we were outside of the circle of bright green grass, the weariness just lifted off of us, and we felt foggy and confused. Not bad, just kind of muddled, like we'd woken from a heavy sleep. We put our shoes back on and left, but just in case, I turned round and said thank you to the circle for its hospitality. On the way back to the car, my partner asked me if we were okay. He still looked really worried, so I asked him what he'd seen. He shrugged and said he hadn't really seen anything, but that he'd watched us all stop and sit down, then lie down at almost exactly the same time. That's not quite how I remembered it, so I asked him if he'd seen the woman in white. He shook his head to this, but also said that he hadn't felt like we were alone there, and he'd gotten the distinct impression that someone or something was annoyed at him for staying outside. When we got to the car, we exchanged stories, and all the others agreed with my description of events, except for the woman in white. We left feeling like we might have had a very narrow escape from something we could not have understood. I don't know for sure what it was, but my intuition says it was the fae folk of old weaving their spells over us. Going into a well-kept, isolated stone circle in the heart of Scotland seems like a bad idea in hindsight, but I'll be honest, I don't regret doing it. It was a wonderful spiritual experience and was one of the times I have felt closest to the earth and to nature. I'm just glad that I had sense enough to question it when the sleepiness set in. If I hadn't, who knows where we would all be now. Always a joy to listen to you. Hope you like this story. Tracy M. Carville. I usually don't do full names on the true story episodes, but again, Tracy is an author, and please go get Children of the Tithe. And Tracy, I'm wondering if this event, if it influenced Children of the Tithe at all. You know what? I can actually ask you that later because I'm going to be interviewing you soon. You know, this whole event, I mean, I don't have to tell you, you were there, but was strange from the get-go. The fact that this wasn't a map that you purchased or was in a kiosk with a bunch of the same map. It was something you found left behind by someone else, which is, I don't know, that's so fae of them, right? And I love this story. Fairy stories really interest me. Like Tracy mentioned, I guess I mentioned it in episode 372. And I don't know, there's something really beautifully strange about these stories. And so many people have them. And I've met so many skeptics that have them who will go to Scotland or Ireland and mention that they have these experiences that they can't explain. They've never had it one since, and they still hardly believe in anything, but they have this experience that is just inexplicable. And I think that's beautiful. And I think the fae folk are a really good example of what I talk about frequently on the show, where we just don't know what's out there. And, you know, even scientists talk about how there are other dimensions and things like that. So I don't know. I just find it beautifully fascinating. Thank you so much, Tracy. Our next story is from someone who'd like to remain anonymous. Hey, Shelby, I'm writing to you from India. I would like to remain anonymous, but you can call me Nikki. I've been listening to you since 3 years now and love the show. I've been meaning to write this for a long time, but my job kept me busy. I've had some paranormal experiences, which are nothing on the extremes, but do give the chills. My first experience is from when I was a teenager. It was the era of iPods, and I used to sleep with one near my bed. It was late at night, and I woke up from a nightmare. It took me some time to orientate myself to my surroundings. I was reaching for my iPod when I heard someone moaning in pain. I got chills all over, but it stopped after some time. And since I was groggy, I just put my earplugs on and started listening to some music to get back to sleep. However, in the background, I heard it again. I paused the music and focused to listen. I didn't hear anything, but this time I just closed my eyes and tried to sleep. And then I heard a knock on my window and felt my bed shake. I opened my eyes and saw a shadow near the foot of my bed, standing tall and then crouching down. I still get goosebumps writing this. As soon as I saw this, I started shouting for my dad. He came in and checked everything. We found nothing, and I slept in my brother's room for the next week. My next experience is from after my job. I was living away from my family. One evening, I was there in my room with my then boyfriend, now ex, when we heard a knocking on the door. Now, it's peculiar because this door opens into a balcony, which is completely closed with iron grills. There is no way to reach this door from the outside. We both ignored it at first. Then it happened a second time. He looked at me and asked if I heard it too. I said yes. We waited. It happened again, but this time, the door was pushed too. I couldn't wait anymore. I opened the door and went outside. There was nothing, and it never happened again. The last incident is of the house I'm currently living in. I have an oil diffuser, which I switch off before sleeping without fail. One night, as I was sleeping, I heard someone saying in my ear, "Switch it off." I opened my eyes, and as I did that, I heard a click. The light from my diffuser started glowing. It was switched on. I went near it and checked the temperature. It was cold, meaning it was switched on recently. I removed it from the plug, and that's how I keep it now. To be clear, I am a skeptic myself. I try to find reason to chaos. I hope you liked my stories. I would love to know your opinion to all this. Thank you so much for the joy you bring with your podcast. I totally love it, and I love you. Take care, drink your water, sweet dreams. Thank you so much. I love you too. And your stories, I can't believe you said that these aren't too extreme, because these were very scary to me. I mean, every single one. The shadow thing crouching in your room, making those sounds, the moaning sounds, something knocking on your balcony door when nothing could get to the balcony and opening. You're so brave, by the way. I don't know if I would have, you know what, actually, maybe. I think I would have, curiosity would have done me in, and I would have had to open the door. But, oh boy, that's so freaky. And then even the last one. I mean, you have had some major scary experiences, and my hat's off to you. And my hat's off to you for staying a skeptic, honestly, because I think that's a healthy way to be, instead of falling into a hole of believing everything is the paranormal or everything is, something. But everything is something. That was a dumb thing to say. You know what I'm saying, though. But I really appreciate your stories, and those were very scary. Very scary. I think so anyway. All right, thank you. Our next submission is from Logan. Hello, Shelby. First off, let me start off by saying that I've been listening to the show for about a month now, and I work the night shift, and you have been great company to have during those slow, late hours of the night. Your voice is super soothing, and I love the little rambles at the end of the show to even out the creepy mood and round out the show, as it adds a bit of a personal touch and connection with your listeners. Thank you. I've listened to horror podcasts for years now, e.g. Creepscast, Something Scary, and Dr. No Sleep, and your show has quickly become one of my favorites. I'd also like to quickly recommend a fantastic audio drama, The Shadow Diaries by Studio 71, and Snarled, if you're ever looking for anything new to listen to during your free time, as I firmly believe you would enjoy it. Thank you for those recs, Logan. I left that in, by the way, so everyone else can hear his recommendations. Anyways, on to my story. It's a bit of a short story, as it was only a quick encounter, But back when I was about 9 years old, I used to share a bedroom with my younger brother. I had the top bunk of our bunk beds, and one night I woke up in the middle of the night for no apparent reason. I felt the urge to look down and check to see if my brother was still asleep. So I looked over the rail down at him. When I looked over the rail, I noticed what for a second I thought was my brother, standing at the edge of his bed with his arms held in front of him with his palms up. However, I soon saw that my brother was fast asleep in his bed, and this boy, who I thought was him, looked up at me. I remember getting so scared that I quickly pulled back into my bed, hid myself in my covers, and was watching the ladder up my bed, hoping that I didn't see a figure coming up. After a few minutes of nothing happening, I looked back down, and the boy was gone. Our door was closed the whole time, and I never heard any footsteps or anything. He just vanished. The only other weird encounter I had in that house, besides that one, came a few months later. My brother and I switched bunks every month to keep it fair, as we both wanted the top bunk. So this month, I was on the bottom bunk, when once again, I randomly woke up in the middle of the night. I felt watched for some reason, so I looked around the room real quick. That was when I noticed my mother at the end of my bed, watching me sleep. She never said a word, but did slowly pat her hands down in a motion that was kind of like telling me to lay my head back down and go to bed. I did lay my head down, but while I was laying back down, I watched my mother slowly back out of the room, through the bedroom door. The door was once again closed, and I didn't hear any footsteps as what I thought was my mother left my room. I would just like to note that my mother is very much alive and healthy, so it's not like it was her spirit visiting me or anything. I've tried bringing these experiences up at the time, but they were just written off as my overactive imagination or a dream. But I am 23 years old now, and these memories stick with me so vividly even to this day. I'm certainly a believer in all kinds of things spiritually, so I wonder what you may think of these strange encounters. Once again, big fan of the show. Keep doing what you're doing. I wish you all the best of luck in everything in life, and let me know if you're interested in any other of my stories, as I've had a few creepy experiences. Much love from Ontario, Canada. Logan. Thank you, Logan. And yes, I would be interested in your other experiences for sure. But let's talk about these two because, wow, like that is terrifying. Have you ever heard of doppelgangers? There are a lot of doppelganger stories out there. I've talked about them a little bit on this show. And I've told, I had a friend who had a doppelganger story because it seems like they're impersonating your family. Like, did the first one, once you saw its face, I have a follow-up question. Did it still look like your brother when it looked at you? Or was it clearly a different little boy? Because I still wouldn't have a direct answer for you because I am not all-knowing, unfortunately. But it would make for, like I said, the doppelganger theory. In theory, sort of, quote-unquote theory. Because if it's a different little boy, maybe it is but something haunting your house. But the doppelganger thing is a whole other bag of worms? No one says bag of worms. Can of worms. It's a whole other can of worms that is, again, it's a very, it's a debatable topic in the high strangeness community. But I would look up doppelgangers and maybe not time slips, because these don't feel like time slips at all. I don't know what these were. I am so sorry you experienced them because that's so scary, and it'd be the type of thing that I would be always for the rest of my life be like, I hope that doesn't happen again. And I would probably think about every night. But I believe you. I believe that you saw these things. That's just very, very terrifying. And I wish I had more answers. But yeah, look up some more doppelganger stories. Maybe that'll give you some insight. Maybe those feel like something that's a little more, or like those stories, kind of feel like what happened to you. That's my only advice. On to the next. Our next story is from an anonymous listener in Mongolia. Hi, Shelby. I just wanted to say how much I enjoy your podcasts. They've become a part of my nightly routine. Your storytelling is so comforting, even when it's chilling, and sometimes you actually scare me to sleep in the best way. This is a story that happened to me, and I would love to hear it in your voice. It's the first of several scary stories I know from my culture, and I'd be honored to share them with you if you like this one. Thank you for everything you do. Your voice brings both peace and mystery into my nights. From Mongolia. I once had a dream, one of those strange, lingering dreams that visit you in sleep and never quite leave. The more I thought about it, the more I believed it was something else, something real, maybe a memory, maybe something in between. In my dream, I was a small child, bundled up beside my mother in the back seat of a car. We were headed somewhere through the vast steppe during a heavy snowstorm. The night was a deep sea of darkness, and we were driving through the snow-covered countryside of Mongolia, a place where roads often vanish into the land, and where winter rules with a silent, icy hand. The snow was falling in dense, swirling sheets, glowing softly in the wash of the headlights. In contrast to what was outside, I remember feeling safe, warm, tucked between familiar adults, my mother, my uncle, and a few others I can't clearly recall. Through the front windscreen, I watched the snow fall hypnotically, my head gently resting on my mom's shoulder. The snow was deep, 10 centimeters at least, and I'm not even exaggerating. The roads, if there were any, were completely swallowed by the white. But there was no fear, only the hum of the engine, the quiet murmur of the adults chatting about the road conditions, the snow piling up, maybe who was expecting us, and the warm cocoon of the car, surrounded by the quiet comfort of people I knew. Then, I saw something. I don't know when it appeared or how it felt so natural, like it had always been there. A white figure floated ahead of the car, gliding across the road. I just somehow knew it was a woman. She wore a traditional Mongolian gown, a deal, white as the snow, and a green scarf around her neck. I shouldn't really say that it was just a scarf. It was a kadag, the ceremonial silk used in Buddhist rituals. My elders had taught me that green kadag isn't exchanged between people. It's only used in offerings to the spirits of the earth. She drifted through the headlight beam, neither walking nor flying, just following. Her face was unclear, blurred by snow, by time, or both. And I only saw her from the side, as if she were caught halfway through crossing the road in front of us. I wasn't afraid, maybe because I was too small to know fear, or maybe because something in her presence wasn't threatening, just strange, otherworldly. The adults noticed too. Their tone shifted, not to panic, but to alertness. My uncle gripped the steering wheel more tightly. My mother began whispering calm prayers under her breath. "Just go calmly," someone said soothingly. "Oh, don't say a word. Talk about something else. Yeah, it's one hell of a snow. Okay, don't speed. Just go slowly." They spoke as if nothing had happened, calm, casual, and I was calm too. And still, she floated and floated. Then, I woke up. The dream left a strange feeling in my chest. It wasn't fear, it was curiosity, familiarity, like it wasn't just a dream, but something deeper, something pulled from a well of buried memory. I told my mother about it, not expecting much, but her response froze me for a moment. "Oh, you remember that?" She told me it happened in the year I turned 4. So it must have been 2002. And what we encountered that night wasn't a woman, it was a strange, floating orb of light. Not an uncommon thing in the wild, empty stretches of Mongolia's steppe, where the land remembers everything. They had been slightly lost on the way to visit close relatives for Lunar New Year, and the light had followed them along the road for a while. She said it happens sometimes out there. These strange lights, these quiet encounters with the unseen. But when I told her I saw a woman in a white deal with a green kadag, she responded without a moment of hesitation. "You were a child. Children, like dogs, horses, cats, and the sick or sorrowful. They can see what we can't." Those words weren't new to me. Everyone in Mongolia has heard them at some point in their life. Maybe what they saw as a floating orb, I saw more clearly. Maybe I saw her beyond the light, saw her for what she really was. Maybe the snow didn't just hide the roads that night. Maybe it veiled something ancient, something lonely, something that walked the steppe long before we did. I don't think it meant to scare us. Maybe she just wanted a little company. Even now, I don't feel fear when I think about her, just a deep, quiet sense of awe. That moment, dream or memory, is etched into me. Silent, white, eternal, a memory buried in snow. But I also know this. What I saw, what we encountered, may not always be so harmless. It can be creepy, and it can be dangerous. There is a saying of elderly people, the era of chaos and cruelty is followed by its consequences. That's why so many of the truly terrifying stories I know come from the past. Times of war and mass murder, times when so much bloodshed, minds were bent, and fleshes torn apart. Especially during the Great Repression in Mongolia from 1937 to 1939, under Stalin's propaganda, when countless Buddhist lamas, followers, and innocent believers were persecuted. The stories from that time, many are beyond imagination, unthinkable horror born not only from human cruelty, but something darker that fed off it. Because when enough sorrow and death gather in one place, something else can form. At first, they are just energy, something invisible. But over time, they grow stronger. And when they do, the most sensible beings notice first. Dogs, horses, cats, then babies. Eventually, even adults begin to see them. And if they grow powerful enough, they can take form, become something physical. They can hurt people, drive them mad, even kill. Sometimes I wonder, if we had lived in one of those dark chapters of history, would that orb have been stronger, more than just light, something dangerous? But I refuse to believe the one I saw was evil. I don't feel that from her. Still, in the vastness of my homeland, across its wild, silent steppes, I believe there are spirits like that. Some are ancient, some are sorrowful, and some are evil. They exist, but in peaceful times like ours, they're too weak to become anything more. And maybe that's why that snowy night in 2002, all she could do was float. Well, that was a stunning story. I don't even know how to comment on it, other than it was breathtaking and beautiful and poignant. And yeah, I'm a little speechless. So let's just move on to the next. I apologize, I don't have more to say, but it was very well written. Our next submission is from Kelly. Hello, my name is Kelly, and I live in a small town in West Virginia. I listen to your show at work and have 2 experiences to share with you. It was 1997. I was 19 and recently married. The tiny trailer we rented was very old and very, very small. Every time you or anyone else would walk through it, the entire thing would rock a little bit. It was very late at night sometime in March of that year, and I was woken up by the trailer moving very lightly. I automatically assumed it was my husband going to the bathroom. However, he was sound asleep right beside me. So that being said, I sat up thinking maybe we had an intruder. I wasn't prepared for what I saw. Coming down the hall towards the bedroom was what I learned later was a shadow figure, a very defined shadow figure. You could obviously see it was a woman. She appeared to be wearing a long gown of some kind and a sheer robe or shawl. Her hair was very long and wavy. I couldn't move. She proceeded to enter the bedroom, walk around the bed, and stopped right beside my husband. He woke up and asked what was wrong due to the fear expression on my face. I couldn't speak. All I could do was point. By the time he rolled over to look, she disappeared. I never saw her again. Fast forward about 12 years. We had bought a house out of town. We had 2 children by then, a son about 10 and a daughter 8. We had just adopted a dog, Scrappy. He would go into the master bedroom, look up at a corner of the room, and constantly bark. It was always the same corner toward the ceiling he barked at. As you went into the house, you entered the family room. To the right of the family room were the kids' rooms, and to the left of those was a bathroom. It again was very late, and I was the only one awake. My husband was at work. I was in the family room watching TV. I saw a glimpse of someone, or something, go into the bathroom. The light was turned on, the door left open, which was weird because my kids always closed the door when they were in the bathroom. A few minutes later, the toilet flushed. No one ever walked out of the bathroom, and the light did not get turned off. After, I got up to check on my kids. Yes, they were both sound asleep and had not moved. I turned off the bathroom light and went to bed. That was the only time I ever saw that happen. It is now 2025, my kids are grown up, and I have remarried and moved again. So far, no paranormal activity in this house. Thank you for listening, and I hope you can use this on your show. Thank you so much, Kelly. You know, your first story reminded me of, I'm reading Jane Eyre right now, which I might have already mentioned on the show. I don't get a lot of time to read, okay? It's taking me a second. But there's a scene in Jane Eyre where, I don't know if I'm sure most of you are familiar with it, but like, it's a really old book, so spoiler alert, but Jane finds out Mr. Rochester, who she's about to marry, secretly has his wife living in the attic, and she's crazy. And at one point, the first time Jane like really sees her, or no, it's actually the second time Jane sees her, she's like in her room, and it's the night before the wedding, and she's like wearing a nightgown, and Jane just sees this like figure wearing a nightgown like go into her wedding chest and take out her veil and put it on her head, and then like rip the veil and then like scurry out of there. And that whole, and not to laugh, I'm sorry, that was probably very terrifying, but that entire scene that you saw, like it played out almost exactly the way that I pictured that scene in Jane Eyre playing out. That was a whole tangent for no reason. I apologize, Kelly. But both of those are incredibly scary. Like the bathroom, like with the light coming on. Oh my God. And almost like earlier, our anonymous listener from India who went to check the doors when the balcony was, being knocked on and pushed at or whatever. You going to turn the light off, like that had to have been so scary. You had to have had to hype yourself up to that, right? Because I would have been like, what am I going to see in this bathroom? I might have left the light on for the rest of the night and been like, that's tomorrow Shelby's problem. But you went and did it. Good for you, girl. Good for you. And I hope that this was the last of your scaries, and in your new life you don't experience anything like that again, because those are both just I mean, these are the stories that I love the most, that everyday people experience, and they're just so inexplicable. It's like, I don't know what that was. I don't know what it was. I wasn't asleep. You just don't know what it is. And we never will, maybe, maybe after death. Who even knows? Who even knows? What even is death? Nope, we're not going to go that deep. We're going to move on. But Kelly, those were excellent. And thank you for listening. And thank you for those stories. Our next submission is from Tori. Hi, Shelby. Your show has been the best at getting me through long days at work. Thank you so much for all you do and how much time and effort you put into each episode. We appreciate you more than you know. Thank you so much. Sorry for the length, but I have a couple of different instances to share with you that always seem to earn me strange looks when I tell people, so I hope you enjoy. When I was around 5 to 6 years old, I used to see a man in my house. At least, that is what I called it. I can't remember what this being looked like, but he was always referred to as the man by me and my family. The first time I saw him, I was sitting in my parents' room hanging out with them. I happened to look into their bathroom where a pile of towels was on the floor, and I can still picture 20 years later the shape the towels made. It was as if someone was using the towels like they were dressed as a ghost using a white sheet. I asked my parents, "Who is that man over there?" Obviously, their first instinct was panic because someone might have broken in, but after glancing into the bathroom to what I can only assume was a heap of towels to them, they simply asked back, "What man?" After some back and forth of me insisting someone was there, they brushed it off as an imaginary friend and went on with their day. Flash forward a bit, I don't remember this interaction as much, but this is how my mom tells it. I was sitting at our kitchen table having a snack. All of a sudden, I get very annoyed and upset. I then start to yell things along the lines of, "No, go away and leave me alone." My mom says that I told her I was yelling at the man. I wish I could remember what he was saying to me, but whatever it was, I was not a fan and certainly not afraid of him. The strangest thing about this whole man story is that we still to this day never knew who it was. We have our theories that it was my grandpa, as he passed away when my dad was around 17. We thought at first he was coming around to see how things had turned out for his son. But then, why would I be so bothered by him? Annoyed and mad even. A couple of years later, our neighbors behind us are moving away, and talking with them, we find out that their son, who was around my age at the time, was consistently seeing a man at the foot of his bed. After the man saga came to an end, all seemed to be normal in our house, until we were on our way to my mom's friend's house for dinner. Some backstory on my mom's friend. We will call her Jen for this story. Jen, sadly, was not able to have kids, so it was interesting when I asked my mom if Jen had any. My mom, like me, is a believer in all things supernatural, so after the whole man thing, her interest was piqued by my question. "No, she doesn't," my mom said. "Do you think she is going to?" I simply replied, "Yeah." My mom followed up with, "Do you think she will have a boy or a girl?" Again, my only reply, "Yeah." Wouldn't you know that not long after this conversation, Jen told everyone she was pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. So it's safe to say that my younger self was a bit of a creep. Let me know if you also think that my parents should have taken me to a medium, LOL. Hope you enjoy taking a look into my peculiar past. Thanks for all you do. Keep up the amazing work. Much love, Tori. Well, dang, Tori, you are one of those kids who it's like, don't tell me there's a man standing over there. I don't have kids, but I imagine that's a horror. I have friends with kids, and it's so scary when they do that. So scary. But hey, here you are. I don't think you were a creep. You just could see some stuff. Much like the Mongolia story, where it's like, children can see things that you don't see anymore as adults. That is one thing I do think I believe in, is like kids and animals just see stuff that we don't for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, I think that was really fascinating. That's interesting. It got real creepy once you said the neighbor boy was also seeing the man. I wonder what the man was. Jesus. Ugh. I actually got like a little chill there. Okay, but thank you, Tori. And I'm so glad you're not seeing the man anymore. God, now I feel like telling the man to go. I feel like the man is watching over my shoulder. Why did that one creep me out so much? I don't know. Tori. Oh my God, Tori. You did get, you know what? I take it back. You did give me the creeps. Okay, moving on. And this is actually to end off the night. This is our last story of the evening. This comes from Gerald. My paranormal story. I just turned 40 and had a relatively healthy, active lifestyle. I ate right, worked out 5 times a week, and had a busy schedule at work as a very busy hairstylist. Looking back at hindsight, I already started to get subtle symptoms of an illness onset, but at this time didn't know what it was. Prior to turning 40 in the past 5 years, I would get subtle symptoms like a flash fever that would last moments then go away, chronic low-grade headaches, and feel super fatigued. I would also have short bouts of being dizzy, and all these things occurred randomly, so I just chalked it up to a lack of sleep, being super busy at work. Then it started to affect my vision, and I started getting these weird auras. I still didn't think anything was wrong with me. It was early September 2010, and I remember this day like it happened yesterday. I got up from bed, but was just so winded that I had to sit on the edge of the bed to catch my breath. That and feeling dizzy at the same time. So I finally got my energy up to get ready for work. I made my lunch, packed my computer, and off I went to the car as my partner was driving me to work this morning. So as we were driving, apparently I passed out a few times and my partner knew something was wrong and drove me to the local hospital. When we arrived at the hospital emergency room, I was admitted immediately as they checked my heart rate and it was off the charts. I was dizzy, feeling really fatigued, and didn't realize I had a gray pallor complexion. I was brought in immediately and was placed in an examination room, and I was to wait there for a doctor. My partner left at this time as he had errands to run. So I waited and waited. Then a doctor came in to examine me. I still remember this doctor that came in. He was of African descent, about 5'9" tall, about mid-40-ish, and wore these rather large, shiny, gold-rimmed spectacles reminiscent of the style from the 70s. I thought to myself how unusual that it is for someone to be wearing this type of style. Are they in fashion again? I thought. They were so shiny gold, they were sparkling. Even as sick as I was, I still had my faculties, and it wasn't because the illness was affecting my eyesight. So he examined me, and to my shock, his hands were ice cold. He went through all the medical rounds and said to me not to worry, and that everything will be okay. Then he left, never to return. I was then admitted to the hospital where I stayed for almost 2 months before being diagnosed with a rare form of B-cell lymphoma. Only 2% of diagnosed cases survive this type of cancer, and I was in stage 4. After going through 3 rounds of chemo, and this was late December, now after Christmas, the chemo didn't work, and I started getting tumors in my abdomen. The oncologist decided to ramp up the chemo, and the dosage would be much higher and more aggressive. So aggressive with the first treatment, I lost all feeling in my legs, hands, and arms, and could no longer walk without assistance or a walker. I was told that I would never be able to do hair again, and that I would be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And I was also told that if this more aggressive chemo didn't work, I would only have about a month to live. I had to accept this as my fate. I mean, what can you do when a doctor tells you this? I had a spiritual awakening and accepted my fate. I do believe in miracles, and within about a week, the tumors in my abdomen went away. So I continued the second series of aggressive chemotherapy. By the end of my chemotherapy at the hospital, I found out I was fast-tracked to get a bone marrow transplant at another hospital. So the time came for me to transfer to the new hospital where they have an extensive bone marrow transplant center. Prior to being transferred, I spoke with the head nurse of the floor as I wanted to give thanks for those that really took care of me. I asked the nurse if I could speak to the African doctor that saw me in the emergency department. As she had worked at the hospital for more than 30 plus years, she looked at me with a puzzled look on her face. She knew practically everyone in the ER, and she told me that there was no such person that worked in the ER. OMG, was I visited by an angel or a ghost? The apparition that visited me was in physical form. He touched my wrist to check my pulse. I was shocked and amazed. After my bone marrow transplant, it was a success, and I beat stage 4 rare lymphoma and am now in full remission. Looking back now, the apparition that showed itself to me said that I would be okay and not to worry. I never ever thought I was going to die from this illness, and that is what I always thought, despite the harshness of the treatments and side effects. I always knew from that incident that it was going to be the hardest thing to go through, but that I would also not die. I beat stage 4 rare form lymphoma and am now in full remission, and I do not use a wheelchair as my hands and legs are now usable, and I've even gone back to work. Thank you so much, Gerald. That was a beautiful story, and I am so happy to hear that you are back to your old self. And I thought that was a great and nice way to end off the episode. Thank you to everyone who submitted stories. If you'd like to submit your own true story, you can send it to scareyoutosleep@gmail.com. Please put in the subject line, true story. And if you'd like ad-free episodes of the show, you can go to patreon.com/scareyoutosleep and get ad-free episodes, bonus episodes, all kinds of things. And what else? Oh, you can follow the show at Scare You to Sleep on all the socials. And you can follow me personally at Shelby B. Novak on all the socials. And a warm welcome to all of our new Facebook group joiners. We got quite an uptick of you after I mentioned the Facebook group last week. So thank you for coming over and joining the party. A lot of you in Scare You to Eat as well. I was happy to see a lot more posts in my little food group. So yeah, if you'd like to join, it's just look for the Scare You to Sleep group. There's also Scare You to Eat, EAT, where we just share recipes and things we made for. I love it that some people just like, here's what I made for dinner every night. It feels like very community driven. I really love that. It feels, I don't know, very when you're here, your family, like Olive Garden, but not Olive Garden. Let's see, what else? I don't have really any announcements. Oh, other than the Bloody Disgusting podcast, for those of you who listen to that or who have been wanting to listen, all of the episodes are now going to be on YouTube. So this last week, it was just Xena and I. So if you go to the official Bloody Disgusting YouTube channel, you can find a playlist for the Bloody Disgusting podcast, and there's our last episode, again, with just Xena and I. And I'm slowly uploading all of our interviews as well. So I just uploaded the interview I did a couple months ago with Chris Jericho. So you can see the full video there of the episode of my interview. And Keenan just did an interview with the people behind Deathgasm. And yeah, there's it's new as the weeks go on. The new episodes will all be uploaded there, as well as I'm going to slowly be uploading our back interviews along with our new interviews. And so, yeah, go check it out. You can see our faces. And one thing I wanted them on YouTube for as well was I've been editing this video version every week, and the only place it goes is Spotify. And I was like, why can't we put them on YouTube? And YouTube is so much more accessible for so many more people. And you can watch them on TV. Like, I watch YouTube on my television all the time. And so it's just, more accessible. So go check that out. It's the official Bloody Disgusting YouTube channel. And what else? Oh, baking corner. Did I bake this week? Oh, I don't believe I did. I did not bake this week. I apologize. I did have some leftover because I always half the recipe for cookies, and that's still too much for little old me. So I always freeze. So I basically make a quarter of the recipe and freeze another quarter. And so I did thaw out some cookie dough I did one sugar cookie and one oatmeal chocolate chip cookie at one point. But that was all the baking I did this week. I'm sorry, but I will be baking this weekend. So I'll let you know about that. And I think that's all this week. I don't have much to say. I'm sorry. But again, if you want more, the Bloody Disgusting podcast is a very different tone, of course. But there's more over there if you'd like. I told a story about my apartment possibly being haunted that I don't know if I've told on this show. And that was in this last episode. So yeah, check that out. Leave us some nice YouTube comments, thumbs up, all that. Look at me. I'm a YouTuber now. What do they say? Like and subscribe. Go like and subscribe. And I will see you again next week. I hope you have a fantastic weekend and a beautiful week. And go drink your water. Go get some sleep. Sweet dreams. Hello, it's Shelby, and you know one thing I clearly find very important is a good night's sleep. One night with Quince's European linen, and I finally understood the hype. The difference was immediate. They're light, breathable, super soft. They're woven from 100% European flax linen. They have an heirloom quality that gets softer with each wash. And that also goes for their ultra plush duvets, quilts, pillows, and shams. Quince has everything you need to level up your bed. The best part, like Quince's clothing, their bedding is half the cost of similar brands. By partnering with top artisans, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And my absolute favorite part about Quince is that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. You deserve to sleep and to dream in high-quality sheets, just like me. I ordered the European linen sheet set specifically because I'm such a hot sleeper, so not only are the sheets beautiful, they're great for warmer weather. Let your bed match the season with cool, relaxed bedding from Quince. Go to quince.com/SYTS for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/SYTS to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/SYTS. Hello, Toxic Avenger fans. You know what that theme song means. It's time for another exclusive audio clip from The Toxic Avenger in theaters August 29th. This time, we bring you the sounds of someone cooking breakfast and listening to the news. Enjoy.
Dimble here live from New Chemistry High School for varsity tournament season. Coach Stanwyck, what can we expect from the Crimson Beaks this year?
New Chem is gonna nuke them.
Wouldn't want to be the Kennedy Cougars this Saturday, huh?
Man, fuck the Cougars.
Fuck the Cougars! Oh my God. Switching gears, we have a special exclusive.
Okay, that's great. Do you want to be part of a winning team? Want to stand up against the forces of evil, like the Kennedy Cougars and beyond? Join the fight at I'mWithToxie.com and then see The Toxic Avenger in theaters on August 29th. That's I'mWithToxie, TOXIE.com.